Okay, hi everyone. So today we are going to be taking a look at something quite interesting and something which will be really beneficial to your day-to-day development, mostly when you are using TypeScript or JavaScript. And that thing we are going to be learning today is called Destructuring Assignment. So we will get started by simply defining our file, or rather creating our file. So we'll just create a simple file, which is a TypeScript file. Then for us to actually convert, or rather transpile, or rather compile this file into JavaScript, for example, so that you can be able to run it using Node, all you need to do is say TypeScript compile TSC. If you don't have TSC installed, please go check out how to install TSC. Then you can come back here. Then it's just the script. So when we hit enter, what we should see is a new JavaScript file created, and the script file, it will be .js extension. So inside it there is nothing. Actually what happens is that TypeScript compile, it will take the TypeScript file, then compile it to a JavaScript file, and everything that is here in the TypeScript file, it will be automatically added, and also additional things may be added as well. So for example, let's do something simple, like for example console log. Here we save this TypeScript file. Then when we come and we compile once again, we should now see console log here also on the TypeScript, on the JS file. But then now how do we run the JS file? All you need to do is to say node script.js, and then we should see here. So to combine the two, we can simply use tsc script.ts, okay, and node script.js. Then when we hit enter, we should get both. So that's basically the start, like how to get things going. Okay, I believe that is clear, and let's now pick off from the first part of this session. Okay, so let's think of a classical example. For example, we have an object, and object in this case, an object can be referring to a dictionary or an iterable. An iterable is, for example, an array or a map, okay, when it comes to JavaScript or TypeScript. So for example, let's say we have our simple array of skills, like a user has different skills, which is an array, okay, of strings. And then here, like, the user can have maybe Python, Django, Angular, and another maybe React Native, maybe Docker, okay, something like this. Okay, so normally what you will do, for example, to access Python, like the first skill of the user, let's say we want to access the first skill of the user and the second skills of the user. So we'll say, like, maybe for example constant first skill will be skills, and then we access it like this. Then the same goes for the second skill, okay. Then when we come and we console log, we should get first skill should be Python. Then the second skill, if we log it, it should be like Django. Okay, so let's just see that here. So let's run this once more. Okay, so we see that we have first skill is Python, second skill is Django. Okay, so this is normally how you get to access them. This is the, like, most people actually use this option way back. Maybe this was the most common method that was being used to access array items. That is the first perspective of the thing that we'll be covering today. So we will be converting this into a format that uses destructuring assignment. So this one is for iterables, so we'll just label it like that, and then we'll remove this for now. Then we'll have for object, or maybe, let's, for a better term, hash table or dictionary. Okay, so for example, we have maybe a bus. Let's say, like, a user has a bus entry where they have to enter, like, bus details, like bus information. And then this one, it will have maybe the color of the bus, which is a string, a string maybe color blue. Then they have let's add additional fields here, for example the color of the bus, the price maybe, and then we also have a model, and then we have the year it was made, and then we have the number of tires. So like hypothetically, these are hypothetical bus information. So for example, the color can be blue, the price can be maybe 2300, and then the model maybe model XYZ, again hypothetical, and then maybe it was in 2024. Number of tires on this bus, maybe they are 4, like, yeah. So because in this case, like we can say the number of tires can vary. Some buses they have maybe 4 tires, others they have 6, and so forth. Maybe that's something that we will be considering. So for example, if we want to access the color of this bus, yeah, what we can do is this. Normally people do this, like bus information dot color. Okay, so is it just like that? Like, is it the only way we are going to be able to access the features of this bus? What if we want to do something with this color? For example, we want to change the price based on the color. We do something and then we update, like maybe the price based on the color. If it's blue, maybe there's an additional value, and so forth and so forth. So this is not the only way that you can access the properties of an object or a hash table or a dictionary. So that's the other thing. So we are going to change this one also to use destructuring assignment. So those are the 2 things we are going to be using for examples in our today's session. This first one is the array manipulation or array accessing. The other thing is accessing object of a dictionary. Okay, so let's see. We will start with the defining like the different ways to have destructuring assignment, and that's the next thing we are going to do, so that at least we have a first-hand understanding of how to go about this. Okay, so there are 2 ways like you can be able to or rather there are 2 formalities or formal terms that you use for destructuring assignment. The first one is called binding pattern, and I'll explain what they are. And the second one, this is the binding pattern, and the second one is the assignment pattern. Okay, so with the binding pattern, it's like you declare. What happens is that you declare as you access, like declare and access. Okay, and then with the assignment, declare then assign. All right, so this one is whereby, for example, you see in maybe JavaScript for now, for example, you want to set, let's do this. You want to set the value of maybe age to 20. So what you can normally do is const maybe age equals to 20. So you have declared declare and assign. Sorry, it's declare and assign. So you have declared and you have assigned in one line, like here. You have done all those things at the same time. With the assignment pattern, what you do, you can say, like, for example, let age, which is a number, okay, then we can say this to be age 2. Then we say age 2 equals to 20. So what you have done, you have declared, yeah, then you have assigned. So you assign, this is the assignment way, and then this is the binding way, whereby with the binding pattern, you have less code written, but it's always best, like, you decide, should I go with the binding pattern, for example, or should I go with the assignment pattern? It's up to you, but we will see, like, we'll see in a few. So those are the 2 ways, like, you can use the binding pattern. The other option is the assignment pattern. All right, okay, so the next thing is to understand. So we are going to start with manipulating the arrays, like iterables, and this one can be arrays, it can be maybe maps and so forth. So to make things a bit cleaner, let's say like iterables.ts. So here we'll, like, let's just copy this, then we paste it here. All right, so far so good. So we are going to see the first. So what you do is, normally we will go with the approach of binding, yeah, the way we said about, like, binding assignment, okay, or binding pattern, or binding pattern. Right, so we go with the binding pattern. So here what you are going to do, you are going to say constant. Maybe we say we want to get skill 1, skill 2, and then we want everything else that the user has in their, like, curriculum vitae, for example. In this case, for example, you are going to say the constant main skill, and then primary, maybe primary skill, and then secondary skill, and then other skills. All right. Okay, so here we are going to say from skills is where we are going to get all these things, like all these properties. So what this will do is really interesting. The first thing it will say, okay, this is what I want to tag. This is the object that I'm targeting, yeah. And then the object that I'm targeting in this case has items that I need to access without using the index option. So what will happen is that the first array item will be assigned automatically to Python, the second one to Django, and that means that I have said that whatever is there in the first position of the skills should be the primary skill, and whatever is in the second position should be the secondary skill. Then everything else that follows, yeah, all these other things, they should go to this array, the array of other skills. So the expectation is that when we log out these things, for example, console log primary skills, primary skill, and then the secondary skill, and then other skills. So what this does, let me just explain this part actually. This is called like the rest, everything else. Think of it that additional to or other, like the way we normally see other skills. These are the other skills, and it will truncate. It's like it will come and it will take the first one, the second one, and then everything else that is part of this array which has not been picked by any preceding indexes. Okay, so for example, if we have here a third skill, we will only be able to see in the other skills, we should be able to see React Native, and Docker. All right, then the third skill will be Angular. All right, then if you want to access the other skills, then these other skills, it has to be the last item in this array, and it should not even be followed by any commas or anything. It should be the last item in the array. All right, so let's remove this and then we remain with that. Let's just run this and TSC, then I think iterables and node iterables.js. All right, so we see that primary skill is Python. All right, so that is expected. The secondary skill is Django, that is expected. Then other skills are Angular, React Native, and Docker, and you can see it's an array. All right, so that is just it. Like all it needs to do is to decide, like, okay, I have been told I have to work on this information like this. So I will decide the first one goes to this, the second one goes to this, and the third one goes to this, and that's it. This one is actually an array, and that means that this being an array, then it creates room for us to actually iterate it in this way. That means you can actually nest them. So let's see in a few. So these other skills, what we can do, we can say this third or other main skill. All right, so this one should give us Angular. Then we come and we say other sub skills, it should give us React Native, and Docker. Then we remember that we need to actually spread it, yeah, so that we can be able to get the rest. Then in this, the rest, we get the main rest and then other rests. I believe I have used rest like in so many ways now. So let's see, like we have like a console log. In this case, we have this, and then we have other skills, other sub skills. So expectation here is that we should have Python still as a primary skill. Secondary skill should be Django. Then other main skill should be Angular. Then other sub skills should be React Native, and Docker. So let's just run this one immediately after the previous one. All right, so we see that primary skill is Python. All right, and then Django, then Angular, then React Native, and Docker. So you can see it just picked Angular from here, it put it here, and that's it. There's nothing to add, there's nothing to remove. That's just it. So question is, like, what happens, for example, I want to access something that is not there. So for example, in this case, we see that we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 properties. Yeah, so what if we just had one item in this array. All right, remember in this case normally you'll do something like this, skills, then you'll get like maybe 0, yeah, so that you get the first item. All right, but if you for example want to get 1, it should be undefined because there is nothing in the slot 1. This whatever you are trying to access is in a larger index than the available items in the array. All right, so here we come and we say like, let's save this one. So expectation is that we should only see Python, then everything else should be undefined. All right, let's see. Yeah, so Python was there, then the secondary skill, it's undefined because it's not there, then other main skill, because it's an item we are trying to access, it's undefined because it's not there, then other sub skills, they are empty because there's nothing. It's like you are accessing from an empty item. So in an array, because like in this case it can't be undefined, that's why it's returning an empty array. All right, so I believe that's it. Now when it comes to like another classical use case, you may wonder like, now where will I ever use this? Like, how can I use this for arrays? Like, is it really useful at all? How can I use it in like my day-to-day life? All right, let's give an example. Like maybe let's assume you are using something like maybe React. I'll use React for example, yeah, and you want to create a hook or maybe a state, yeah. So you will go about like maybe use state and so forth and so forth. Like for example, constant username, and then set username, and then here you call the use state function. All right, so just forget about React, forget about maybe any frameworks. Let's just do it this way, like here. All right, okay, so one thing I want you to understand, you can actually destructure from returned value that are calling from returned values of a function. So what that means is, for example, if you have this function, let's say maybe our function is called useState, right? So you see that it's complaining. Why? Because this one returns nothing. That means that we should have like something that returns. Yeah, it must be an iterator because we are going to be accessing indices or positions of this iteratable. All right, so we continue and we say like, for example, we are going to just return something like an array of empty. In this case, these two, as we saw before, they should be undefined, yeah, because there is nothing in them, right? So we come and we say, maybe for example, the username is maybe let's say sample, and then there is a function here like maybe I'm just completely mocking how you would use like a use state, so that you have a modifier for the property which is username. So let's console log here username, and the set username. So this one should do this. Let's comment this out so that they don't confuse us. Okay, so what should be expected is that the first item should be sample, right? Then the second item, which is this one, should be an array. Okay, because remember, you can return anything from a function. Okay, so if we save it and then we run it, you should see sample, yes, and then a function that is an anonymous function. Okay, so I believe that's it. There's nothing to add, there's nothing to remove from that. So key things to remember, you can first of all, let's recap how quickly it was to understand like how to simply like destructure your arrays. First of all, you access them based on the indices. The other thing, you can nest the rest part. You see, like you have the option to have a rest content, then you can nest these rest contents. And the other thing, you can actually destructure results that are returned from an array. And with that, I believe destructuring arrays is clear. Okay, if you have any questions, just ask and then we can go even through this together. Okay, so the next thing we are going to take a look at is object destructuring. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let's close this ones first, and then we come and we say a new file. We'll call this one maybe hash or dictionary. .ts. Okay, so this one we will use another like the example that we had here, like for this then we say like the first thing we are going to say is, how do we destructure? Like, what are the possible ways of destructuring? We have seen that we have two methods, like there is a binding pattern and also the assignment pattern. With the binding pattern, things are going to be so easy for us. For example, all we need to do, instead of saying like bus information.color as we saw before, so, and then let's actually do this console log. Let's just log out what bus what this one gives, and then we come and we say here, for example, constant color from bus information. Okay, so let's log this one as well, and we should see like let's say 2, and this is 1. And then we come and we run node tsc dictionary and node dictionary JS. Okay, so we should have blue. Okay, so that is good. Now this means this way, I want the property that is there in bus information, I want it, like I want to get it. Yeah, so you may wonder like, now how does it apply to me? Like, why is this so important? It's important because you don't need to actually use the dot operators. Like, you may think it's like maybe not efficient, but when it comes to working with large data, for example, as we will see in a few, it will be really beneficial. Okay, now let's start with for example, I want to say, no, let me assign this property a new variable, because color is so vague for me. Let's say like I'm calling this from the backend. Yeah, I'm calling this from the backend, then I'm getting maybe feature Y, or even the backend is responding with color underscore main, something like that. All right, so we see there is an error. Yeah, but on our code, on our client, we want to still use color. Okay, so what we need to do is rename the variable, or rather assign it a different variable name. Okay, so what we can do, that I want you to understand, like it's this way, like from to, just that I want to move from this property name, okay, to this other property name. Okay, so I want to change my value from color main, okay, to color. All right, so when we log color here, we should get the blue value. Okay, and that's it. So let's do this once more, and we get the same. Okay, so you can easily change the default name from a name that is coming from like the object itself, and use a name that is more like appealing, or rather that you feel comfortable with. Okay, all right, so the other thing is to understand that, what if, for example, let's look at our tires. We say that a car can have maybe 4 tires by default. What if it doesn't have, like, let's assume that it just has been entered on the database, like this one. This is an entry that is there, and then we don't know what this value is. Okay, so that means we need to set a default, like for example, constant, I want to have a default value for the tires. All right, so for example, tires, what we need to do is to just say equals the default value is 4. For example, all cars, they have a default like maybe value of 4 for tires. Okay, so this is bus information. Let's call this bus information 1. Then we can just change these ones really quick. Right, then we come and we say we have bus information 2. Then we say like okay, we want to manipulate tires dot original is the way to access, like the normal way of accessing our properties, like in this case is tires. Right, then we come and we say destructuring here is like tires, so we want to access it like this. So we say constant, we have seen we can actually rename, so we are going to be renaming the variable. So from, we remember, from something to something. Okay, and this something that is 2, it can have a default I want you to understand that pattern. So we can just say this. Okay, so I am accessing this property. In this case, the property we fill it here is the tires. Okay, I want to access it as bus information to tires, because we can't say tires, like I believe there is tires already, so it will complain. And this is why like when we started, we said like you can rename, like when we started this part, we said you can rename them. So we can rename these to like a bus information to tires. Then if it doesn't have an entry on the database, for example, then the default we can always say maybe is 4. Okay, so when we save this and then we come here and we log bus information to tires, but because bus information 2 we have said it can miss the tires entry, and then we can say like, oh yeah, so if it doesn't have an entry, like it's maybe like, let's say it's undefined, all right, like when it was saved, like maybe someone forgot the property value, then we save this. If we run this, then we should be seeing, let's comment out the color, and then let's run this. So we should see the original value, these tires, it's undefined, all right. However, on destructuring, we said no, I want, if something doesn't have a value, then I want it to get a default of 4. Let's change this to 12. I don't know if there is a bus with 12 tires, but let's just see. We should get 12, and that's it. So you have seen how we have combined renaming of a property, yeah, and then assigning it a default value, and that should actually be it. So to recap, it's so simple. Like all you need to do is remember like a couple of things. You can access the property directly. For example, in this case, we were accessing it like so, like this way. Okay, the other thing you can do is to rename it, and the other thing you can do is to assign defaults. Right, then the other thing you can do is you can even rename and assign a default. Okay, and that's it. So I believe if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask, and then I'm more than happy to explain anything that is not clear on this part of dictionary destructuring. Okay, finally we get to the last part. So you may ask like, Ben, okay, now how can I use this? How is this important? Can I even combine the two, like using dictionaries and iterables? And remember, it's not just dictionary, anything that is an object. Okay, and in JavaScript we have so many types of objects. An array itself is an object because it has different properties. Okay, so let's see, like combining both of these together. Right, let's see that. Okay, so let's create a new file and then combine.ts. right? So we will start by saying what example are we going to use? I believe we can use this one. Like let's use this. You see here where we are getting other skills and so forth and so forth. Let's say you have been presented with a problem whereby you need to first of all access the main skill, then access the secondary skill of the user, whereby this main skill is the first one, then this one, then second one. Then you have been told like we want to present not just like all the other skills, but rather we want like the number or the count of the other skills which the user has up their sleeve. Okay, all right. So how we can start this is simply this. We already know like a main skill, and then we already know other, or okay, we call them like this, like primary, and then we have secondary, and then we say this one will be primary skill, and then we have secondary, and then we have anything else is the other skills. Right, so we have the skills here. Okay, so what will happen is this: we are going to have everything as it was before. Okay, so when we say that we need to display primary, all we need to do is just this, like we can say like everything will be as it was before, like primary, secondary, right, and then other skills we have been told hey, we want to display count. The count is the length, right? Okay, so let's see what this gives us so far. Sorry, it's combined. Combine. Okay, so we have seen that we have our primary skill, which is Python. Then we have our secondary skill, which is Django. Then other skills, they are 4 total. Okay, this is not ideal. Yeah, for example, like you have been told we want just have all this in one line. All you need to do, remember what this gave us was an object. This one is an object. Yeah, so if this is an object, then implicitly it looks something like this. So we can say, like, assume that it looks something like this. And if this is the case, and you remember how actually we saw it was so possible to access the properties of an object, all you need to do is to say this length, because remember, whatever is spread at the end is an array. Yes, so here when we come here, we can just say this, we can say the length, and then we save it. Then it should actually run. But why is it complaining? Let's see if it will be okay. Okay, length is, it didn't work. So why didn't it work? Let's see. Cannot declare, and they'll declare here, I guess. Okay, so what if we rename it, because we have not declared it anywhere, we rename from to other skills count. Okay, so we can say this other skills count, and that's it. We see that it's so easy, like, to use both the object destructuring and also the array destructuring. And remember, it's not only on array, it also applies to things like maps and so forth. So to recap what we have done, we started by creating our simple script. We saw like how we normally access the variables, and then we said like we have 2 ways of doing object destructuring. The first one is the binding pattern, the other one is assignment pattern. The binding pattern you actually declare as you assign. The assignment pattern you declare, then you assign. Okay, then we went to iterables. Yes, where we went ahead and we saw like the original way of accessing them and the other way of accessing them, which is this, like using like the binding pattern. And we saw like how easy it is to even like nest your rest section. Yeah, and then the third part that we went ahead and saw is the dictionary part. You can easily like access properties, you can easily rename properties, you can easily even set the default values if there are no values received. Okay, finally we saw how it can be so easy to combine both of these properties, and like how it can be easy to access like maybe the length of the array in a destructured array in the rest section. I believe that's it. So let me know if you have any questions, and again, take it easy, take it slow. Just start with this part, then go to the iterables, understand this, then go to the dictionary part, understand this, then you see how you combine everything together. Yeah, so with that said, let me know if you have any questions, and if something is not clear, just hit me up and I can assist. Okay, thank you and have a great one.